since this community has done nothing to go against the unity of the church. And at this parish, both communities have thrived, the Novus Ordo community and the Latin Mass community.
The liturgy debate reignited this week as restrictions limiting the traditional Latin Mass in Charlotte, North Carolina were put into place Thursday. As a thriving faith community adapts to these changes, many in the church discuss whether unity requires uniformity. Welcome to EWTN News In Depth. I'm Catherine Hadro. The Diocese of Charlotte is just the latest in the U.S. to implement sweeping restrictions on the traditional Latin Mass. The topic is a sensitive one, often with heightened emotions, particularly for the small but thriving communities who love the old Mass. The traditional Latin Mass, also called the extraordinary form, was the most common form of the Mass for centuries in the Church. In this rite, the liturgy is entirely in Latin, and the priest celebrates facing the same direction as the people. In the traditional Latin Mass, the readings come from the Gospels, preceded typically by an epistle from St. Paul. In 1970, the Church implemented the Novus Ordo, or new form of the Mass. This rite includes readings from the Old Testament, and while Latin is still the official language of the Church, the Novus Ordo permits the Mass in modern local languages. It also allows the priest to face the congregation. A Pew survey this summer found that 2% of American Catholics attend the traditional Latin Mass at least weekly. 1% attend once or twice a month, and 2% go a few times a year. Yet many churches which offer the Latin Mass say it continues to draw crowds. Some U.S. dioceses have faced controversy over what's seen as severe restrictions tamping down on a flourishing part of their flock. That now includes Charlotte, where faithful are now limited to a single chapel for the extraordinary form, a space even Bishop Michael Martin has acknowledged will not accommodate the entire community.
From the first time I heard about this, I would say that it broke my heart.
Catholics outside St. Anne Parish in Charlotte reflect on their love for the traditional Latin Mass. They filled the church on Wednesday for its final Mass in the extraordinary form, a part of the parish's liturgical life for more than a decade. EWTN News was not allowed inside for filming, but spoke to some of the faithful who attended.
Just a grave disappointment because I feel like it's unnecessary.
Our whole family's pretty heartbroken.
Brian Williams, co-founder of the Charlotte Latin Mass, the community has steadily grown since Sunday Latin Masses became available in 2013.
And what you began to see were people who just had no familiarity with this Mass, but just kind of found it and started going to it. We have on average between 1,200 to 1,500 people every Sunday going to these 4 Latin Masses.
Former Bishop Peter Jugas, who headed the Diocese of Charlotte for more than 20 years, was very supportive of the Latin Mass community. But an apostolic letter compelled him and all bishops to begin to limit the extraordinary form. In 2021, the late Pope Francis issued his motu proprio Traditionis Custodes, Latin for guardians of the tradition. The apostolic letter calls for bishops to regulate the celebration of the Latin Mass in their dioceses, limiting it to non-parish churches. It was a stark change from his predecessors, Pope St. John Paul II and Pope Benedict XVI, who gave priests broad rights to celebrate the extraordinary form. Retired theology professor Dr. Larry Chapp says Francis saw the presence of the traditional Latin Mass as a source of division in his flock.
The Latin Mass had proliferated and had grown very popular in certain circles, and Pope Francis apparently viewed that as a threat to the ordinary form of the liturgy.
Dr. Joseph Shaw, president of Una Voce International, sees how bishops around the world have implemented Traditionis Custodes.
The lesson I draw from that is that there's very little enthusiasm among bishops to crush the traditional Mass. What's happened in America has been quite extreme.
Many dioceses and archdioceses, including Chicago, Detroit, Washington, D.C., and Seattle, have implemented Traditionis Custodes.
Most dioceses had followed this. The Diocese of Charlotte had not.
In 2023, after Pope Francis issued a rescript clarifying Traditionis Custodes, Bishop Jugas announced he would limit the Latin Mass in Charlotte from 9 parishes to 4 and received a 2-year dispensation from Rome to delay further restrictions until October 2nd of this year. After his resignation in 2024, Bishop Michael Martin was installed as the new head of the diocese. This May, just a year into his tenure, he announced he would continue implementing those restrictions. Dr. Timothy O'Malley, academic director at the Notre Dame Center for Liturgy, says he was continuing the work of his predecessor.
When Bishop Martin came in, he began to actually implement what many dioceses had already done, which was to sort of follow that it could be at a shrine or a chapel, but it could not be at a parish church.
Martin announced that starting July 8th, the traditional Latin Mass would only be celebrated on Sundays at a new chapel to further promote the concord and unity of the church in his diocese. His announcement faced significant backlash at home and beyond. Charlotte's Latin Mass community was surprised the implementation would happen before the Vatican's deadline.
They were hoping to hear maybe a further dispensation or some additional time being granted maybe, and instead they were told they were actually losing 3 months.
The controversy expanded when a leaked document showed sweeping liturgical norms for all masses, including banning the use of Latin and altar rails. As this backlash mounted, the diocesan newspaper Catholic News Herald reported the deadline would move back to October 2nd, stating the extra time would help with the transition and renovating the new chapel.
For years, the Charlotte Latin Mass community had asked for a dedicated chapel, but that dedicated chapel was something that would be the sacraments, the traditional sacraments, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, with a dedicated priest or priests. This has been explicitly stated is just a building to use for 2 masses on Sunday, and that is it. They have said intentionally that it is not to build community.
Mooresville's Chapel of the Little Flower, which cost some $700,000 to renovate, can only fit a little more than 350 people, meaning there are not enough pews for the more than 1,000 people who typically attend the TLM. The diocese chose Mooresville as the site of the new chapel because it sits between 2 of its largest TLM communities. But its location means many must drive more than 2 hours to attend.
Mooresville for me is long way.
Faithful who regularly attend the traditional Latin Mass have to decide whether they will stay at their parish or travel to Mooresville for the extraordinary form.
Yes.
Yeah, we love St. Anne's, but we need to go where the Latin Mass is.
We won't be able to do it every Sunday. We will do it at times. And we also love this parish.
Bishop Martin and the Diocese of Charlotte did not make themselves available for an interview, but said earlier this year in the Catholic News Herald they would abide by any new guidance the Vatican releases on the traditional Latin Mass. Charlotte Catholics hope to see their beloved liturgy return one day.
We will offer those losses and that pain for the world and for the church.
This is the last Latin Mass now. It's going to return as it happened before.